afternoon, and welcome to our panel on the border and the drug wars and two sides of a very complex story. My name is Ricardo Ainsile, and I'm delighted to be moderating this event with two authors, Hipolito Acosta, whose book, yes, thank you. The book is titled The Shadow Catcher, a U.S. agent infiltrates Mexico's deadly crime cartels. And to my left is Chris Heifner. And the title of his book is Mule, My Dangerous Life as a Drug Smuggler Turned DEA Informant. So we've got a very interesting and lively set of books here. And I'm going to start by asking Chris how it is that he became involved in the drug business.
Well, my life is sort of the American dream gone bad. I was a college graduate and had everything going for me, but I was living with my pregnant girlfriend at the time, and we had a 5-year-old daughter. Christmas was 2 weeks away, and we were being evicted. I had no one to turn to. I had nothing to sell, had really no options. So I basically turned to a friend who I thought would just give me a loan, and because he was in the drug business. Little did I know he was basically trying to groom me because he wanted me to mule for him because I didn't look like a typical mule. He willingly loaned the money, and of course he had his hooks into me at that point because I only asked for a loan for a couple $1,000s, and he immediately offered me several more than that. And once the money was in my hands, there's no way you could say no when you're in a desperate situation.
So you started running drugs for him?
Yes, I did. And my situation isn't uncommon to what you would see, say, in Mexico. 51% of the people in Mexico live in extreme poverty. And several years ago, I attended a wedding in Mexico, and 4 families were in this wedding at one time because they had to split the cost of a priest, which was only about $40. At the end of the wedding, we decided we would drive back by the bridegroom's house to drop off some gifts, and they lived in one of the colonias on the outskirts of El Paso. They had one bed, the parents lived in the bed, the 2 of the children lived in the bed, and now the newlywed couple was going to share the bed with the parents. There was no bathroom facilities. You simply went out to the back of the house and used the space behind the house, the dirt, to use the restroom. And when you grow up in that kind of poverty, you tend to look for any escape you can. You would willingly beg that a drug dealer would come to your house and offer you money so that you could buy some clothes, buy some shoes, live a nicer life. And we would think that many years later that the situation would be better, but with the current drug war, it's actually much, much worse in Mexico. So I can sort of relate to the problems down there with the drug trafficking because I was in a similar situation.
Great. Hipolito, you became one of the nation's most decorated INS officers and rose in the ranks from a Border Patrol agent to a key post in Homeland Security. And I'm wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about how you became involved with the Border Patrol and the kind of motivations you had at the time.
Certainly, good morning to everyone. I was born in West Texas, and I actually came from a very poor family. I was in a small place by the name of Redford, Texas, where we had a 3-room school that only had the grades up to the 8th grade, but we were in poverty. We traveled the migrant camps, agriculture camps up into West Texas, New Mexico. But one of the things that I always figured that I knew, I had that feeling that working hard in our country, I could make it because education was something that was very important for me. So because of the limited educational opportunities, I joined the U.S. Navy, spent 4 years in the military, and ultimately applied for the U.S. Border Patrol. And I was blessed with not only a tremendous career, a tremendous family, I ended up starting along the border as a U.S. Border Patrol agent, going through the ranks, as Ricardo stated, and then I started using what I felt was a talent that I was blessed with, of being able to infiltrate drug cartels, alien smuggling, human smuggling cartels, and I did more undercover work and more criminal cases than probably any federal agent in the history of our government over a 30-year career. And I'm very happy to share those experiences because they're very unique, because I was the only federal agent that actually experienced being smuggled as a foreigner from Mexico to the interior of the United States, going through the travels by myself in the back of a U-Haul, a trunk of a car, things of that nature. So it was quite dramatic, but it was something that I did with a lot of pride because I felt that I had to go after those who abuse those seeking a better life in the United States, and I share those stories with you in my book, The Shadow Catcher.
You know, there's many really powerful moments that you describe. I'm wondering if you could share a couple of those with us. One that I'm thinking in particular is a juncture where you're actually stopped by the U.S. Border Patrol as you enter, and you're in an operation.
Yeah, well, that was one of the dramatic, amongst the many dramatic moments. Actually, it was a New Mexico State Trooper. You'll see the picture in my book. I had a big afro, I had long hair, and when I told him I was a federal agent, I think he wanted to laugh it off and lock me up. But it was quite dramatic, and I had been undercover by myself in Mexico. I had actually been in a small hotel in Mexico that was flea infested. We had been sleeping on the cement floor in El Paso in one room, and it included women, children, and myself. So it was a perspective not seen by many agents that work that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of dramatic moments that I went through that I share with you in my book.
Mm-hmm. Another one is when you've infiltrated a group and you've got, I think it's a caravan of 8 vehicles that are coming across, and you're in the lead car, and the agent stops you.
Unfortunately, that happens. I was coming through the port of entry, and I didn't smell very good. I had been undercover in Mexico for a period of time, and I was waiting to get home after finishing this particular case, and we had a large group with a lot of defendants, and unfortunately, the only one that was detained was me. So that was some of the dramatic times. We ultimately recovered, and it was kind of dramatic because what happened as a consequence of that, I ended up having to go back into Mexico to pursue the main target, and I ended up being thrown in a Mexican jail where it got very dangerous for me. And I was very lucky that I was able to get out alive because it was during the same time period that we had drug enforcement agent Kiki Camarena killed in Mexico. So I was able to get out. It was a very dangerous time, a very dangerous environment.
Yeah, thank you. Chris, so you start running drugs for a man named Jeff Anders.
Correct.
And can you describe for us that first experience when you were heading up to Wichita, right?
Yes, I never did drugs, so I don't understand the drug culture per se, but I'll never forget the first drug load I ran was over 100 pounds. And we negotiated the price. I get in the car and I start driving, and all I could think was, man, what happens if my car breaks down? What happens if I get a flat tire? What happens if I get in a wreck? I was already freaking out over the fact that drugs were in my car, period. And at that point, delusions of paranoia start sinking in. You start seeing ghosts behind every tree and cops behind every bush. And I really thought I was going insane that moment.
Well, you had a particularly ingenious disguise, I thought.
Well, there's a ski mountain just north of El Paso, so I threw some skis in the car and read the ski report. And when I hit the Border Patrol checkpoint, the border agent, they'd never questioned me before. When I was running drugs, I was much younger and, of course, much better looking because I had hair. So you'd have never guessed that I was involved in any sort of criminal enterprise. So I just played the part of a college kid on a ski trip and went about my way. And it was the first time he ever asked me questions. And he was simply curious about how the mountain conditions were. Little did he know I was going to have a heart attack right there at the checkpoint.
A dimension to each of these books that I think is really striking, and it comes up as you're approaching that checkpoint, Chris, in which you say, "Thank God I'm white."